Hey up, hope you're all right, and a very warm welcome to Yellowbelly Presents with me, Joe Law. Today we're joined by one of the most celebrated choreographers in the world of musical theatre. He is a 3-time Olivier Award winner, a master of movement whose work has illuminated stages from West End to Broadway, from Mary Poppins to Gypsy, Hello Dolly to Singing in the Rain.
Americans are always saying, "Oh God, we'd love to work in the West End." I said, "Yeah, but you wouldn't want that money. I'll tell you now." Because Darren, when you say what the basic is here, and you say that to an American, they absolutely do not believe you. They went, no.
But beyond the choreography, he's a mentor, a trailblazer, and someone whose passion for storytelling has left an indelible mark upon the industry.
I've offered people jobs on something else from an audition they've done for me because I've remembered them.
We are absolutely delighted to welcome the legendary Stephen Mear. Stephen, thank you so much for coming on the pod with us today. Stephen, in many ways, dance and choreography is the most innate, intimate and instinctive of all the art forms. It doesn't need an external conduit to the creativity like a script or an instrument. It's something that comes directly from us, like water out of the ground. I mean, you can see it on those like vibrant children on a wedding dance floor that are like busting out moves that are purely and uniquely them. Mm-hmm. So when was the first moment that you realized that those unique ideas that you had in your head and your body, that you wanted to paint them onto the world?
I think as a young kid, because I was severely dyslexic, and I found out ADHD later, I just knew as a kid, I thought I was thick at school till they found out, but then I could dance, and I knew that I got noticed, and with that passion of just getting noticed, I thought, oh, I can actually do something, and I loved it, and it's just a way of expressing yourself and just letting go and being free, and I think that's where I first got that, passion from.
You talked about your dyslexia there, and suddenly you found dance where there was this sphere of life where you weren't getting called thick, where you were talented, and people going, that's brilliant, that's really, really good. I think a lot of us can, in the arts, can empathize with kind of feeling like a misfit elsewhere in life. And suddenly you find this sphere that you're surrounded by other wonderful people who love the same thing that you do. Yeah,
I think I had a teacher that called me thick at school. He said, you'll never go into your airy-fairy theatre world, and that you need to face the real life and you need to put your head down and do your job. Because I was in the amateur societies and I was dancing while I was at college. And I remember him saying that. And that made me more determined to prove him wrong and go out there and prove that I had got something. And actually, thanks to him doing that in a way, I know it's hideous, but at the time, but it made me more passionate and to prove that I could do what I could do.
Gives a bit of fuel
absolutely.
to the old fire. So did you always want to be just a dancer first, or did you always have an eye on choreography as well?
I think because I used to teach at the dance schools.
Yeah.
I got my teaching exams before I ever went to London to train. I used to love teaching, but I always wanted to be a dancer in the West End. I remember getting into my first job. I was still at college when I did my first West End, and I remember thinking, I've made it. And then I got into 42nd Street while I was still at college, and then I remember the curtain going, and I think nothing is ever going to be better than this. I've just made it in my career, and of course, I've done a lot of nice things since then. But it was just something I knew I loved, but I always used to watch choreographers and directors, the way they treated people in the room and how they got the best out of people. So I knew I wanted to go there originally because, you can't dance forever. And of course, I learned to act and sing. I made myself do everything,
For our viewers and listeners who want to make that journey from dancer to choreographer, what does that look like? How do you make that journey?
You see, I find it strange now. I hear a lot of people think leaving college, they're going to be choreographers straight away. I think you have to do your craft.
Yeah.
You have to be in a show. You have to know how to take a technical rehearsal, how to treat other people. Everybody's different. It's like being a therapist sometimes, good and bad. But you can't just expect to go out there and choreograph. That isn't what it's about all the time.
Yeah.
It's about how you know the industry.
Yeah.
It all works. It's a lot harder than people think. But if you learn, and if you're in shows and then you see how techs are run, how everything's run, technical, backstage, wardrobe, how everything's run, that's how you learn your craft.
Yeah. And what's the old phrase? You can't pour from an empty cup.
No, so true.
You need to earn your stripes, as you said.
Yeah,
and
I didn't realize I'd earned them as much as I did. I learned through watching bad directors and good directors and seeing who got the most out of people, and working with actors that can't dance, so they have to trust you. That's a big learning curve for a choreographer. And also, I remember doing Little Night Music in Japan with Julia McKenzie directing, and I thought, I'm in Japan, I've got to show why I'm there as a choreographer. And I was doing everything, and she came over to me and said, Stephen, just because you've got a parasol in your hand, you don't have to twirl it. And it was my favorite line that I tell people, say, don't over choreograph. When you're new, you want to just throw everything at it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't always work. You have to be confident to not over choreograph stuff.
So in that time of your life when you were a dancer, soaking up all that information, earning your stripes, what were the biggest lessons you learned from both the good directors and the bad about how you wanted to choreograph going forwards?
I remember doing Anything Goes at the National 500 years ago with Trevor Nunn. It was his last show at the National. And I was just starting off then. And he'd given me this chance to do his last show at the National. And he was the most generous, wonderful director you could ever work with. I mean, he was so generous. And I really was wanting to prove to him while I was there. He said, and another thing because my dyslexia, I always was asking what words were. I remember him talking to me once and I could understand the and perhaps. And he said, never apologize, always come and ask.
Yeah.
And he was so generous. And then later in my career, I worked with a director, a good director, never done a musical before.
Yeah.
And I'd done it on, and then I was going to work with another director afterwards called Rachel Kavanagh in doing another show. And the people in the first show kept saying, you've directed this show. And I thought, really? I was doing a lot on it. I knew I was. Then I worked with Rachel Kavanagh, who is a genius. And I just realized, oh my God, I really did more or less direct that. So that's why I went into directing after a while.
Yeah.
Thinking, I know I can direct if it's something I really know backwards, I will do. So you learn good and bad things all the time. Even the bad things are good to know.
You used a really important word there, I think, generous. When we've talked to some of our other guests about incredible actors they've worked opposite or incredible people they've worked with, it's a really common word they will use to describe the greats: generous, giving.
Oh, without doubt. I mean, where Trevor, I always believe that you shouldn't, director and a choreographer, if they're two different people, you should never know where the director left and the choreographer took over. Mm-hmm. It's the most wonderful thing if that works. You can see its collaboration is beautiful. If you've got a director that just won't let you do anything and wants to control everything, it doesn't always work. It's a hard one, that is. And I've come across both. Yeah. But I've come across the more collaboration one more. So I've been very lucky.
And if there are people, likewise, you've so beautifully explained the path from dancer to choreographer. If there are choreographers listening or watching this thinking, how do I go from choreographer to director? In what way are those roles similar? In what way are they different? What lessons have you learned?
I mean, I feel as a choreographer, most of my choreography is dance-driven storytelling through dance. Yeah. So that's like directing for me. Yeah. Matthew Bourne would say the same. It is directing. And so it's only the next step up of doing the speaking, which is fine. Like I said, I do only want to direct things I know backwards because I'm not Trevor Nunn. Yeah. But I'm a lot better than some of the people I've but saying that, I just think it's the next progression. If that's what you want to do, I had a passion to direct. When I was associate at Chichester Festival Theatre, I was associate and part of my contract was to direct something. And they thought, he's going to do a big dance show. And I didn't. I did She Loves Me because it was something I knew backwards. Yeah. I think it's a beautiful story. And I knew no one could catch me out. So that's why I did that. But yeah, I love directing. Choreography is my first love.
Yeah.
But I still love directing if it's something I adore.
You just said there that when you choreograph, you have a narrative focus. How does the story govern the moves that you create to tell it?
I think as long as it's forward in the story and it means something,
Yeah.
and it's worth doing. I mean, I have done a show where it was just dance and it literally killed me. I mean, it was a okay show, you know, but for me, it was a bit soul destroying because I'd just done Anything Goes International, which was received, and it was like my mother had written all the reviews. And so that was good. But then I got to do this other show, which was a jukebox kind of musical. I earned lots of money from it, so I need to shut my mouth, really. But but the fact is, it was still a learning curve.
Yeah.
But at the time, I remember my soul just dropping to my ankles a couple
Yeah.
of times because I'd worked stuff out, and they said, "Oh no, it's too theatrical. We don't want that." And I remember sitting there going, But you know, once again, you learn from it. Once again, I earned money from it. So I kind of sold my soul a little bit on that one. But it's part of learning your career. It really is.
How much are you allowed to stand up for the ideas that you believe in? And how much do you just have to completely defer to the director in that moment?
I think when you're starting off, you need to keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
If you want my honest.
Great advice.
Just go along. Just when you're starting off, you can't be kicking off and saying, "Oh no, I do." You know, you have to get a good name for yourself. I do stand my ground a lot more now.
Of course.
I'm not scared to say. And also, I'm very lucky that I'm in a position now where I do jobs I only want to do.
Yeah.
And work with the people I only want to work with, which is also a joy. But you know, just lately I've done one job not long ago where I did find it hard because the director was very brilliant director and a nice director. She wasn't horrible, but it was just very controlling.
Yeah.
And I felt that I couldn't give anything to. I did, but it wasn't what I would have loved to have given.
Yeah.
So I had to bite my tongue a little bit there. But it was a brilliant production in the end of the day.
Do you find that your style of choreography is constantly evolving and changing, or do you have a very settled style that you know and love, or do you still like to experiment now?
Oh, I know. I like to experiment.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember doing On the Town and everybody was shocked because it was all ballet.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I trained in ballet.
Yeah.
It's not a big thing for me. Just
Yeah.
I'm known as a tapper and a bit showbiz.
Yeah.
It's great. You know, I get offered a lot of jukebox musicals but like, there are better choreographers than me.
Mm-hmm.
If I was starting off, I would take them. But now but yeah, I like to try all sorts. I love all different styles. I really do. I appreciate it all.
You've spoken before really openly and honestly about ballet wasn't your natural style and that you really had to drum it. Or was it like 14 classes a week of ballet you were doing on top of everything else?
Yeah, because I was lucky that way. I went to college knowing I could tap anybody off a stage. That's one thing I could do from the age of 3. I love my tapping.
Yeah.
You know? And I could jazz dance. Not as good as when I got to do mathematics, it was a whole new ball game for me. But the ballet, I did it because I knew I wasn't good at it.
Yeah.
And I think if you're clever enough when you're at college to not just do the classes you're good at, do the ones that are going to challenge you. Like the singing classes and my acting classes, I really pushed for as well because I knew that's what I'd got to work at.
Yeah.
And so I was lucky that I was like that. But I ended up playing Mephistopheles in Cats. You know, I wasn't the best Mephistopheles, but I did end up playing it. So it's I was grateful for that. I remember auditioning for Cats 3 times and never getting it. So and Donald McLennan, the ballet teacher at the time, knew I was supposed to be at this audition, and he saw me walk past his class because I thought, I'm not going. I didn't get it the last few. And I was walking by. He went, opened his door, said, "Aren't you supposed to be going to a Cats audition?" I said, "I don't think I'm going to bother. My turn's in second." And he got me in and cleared his class out, made me do turns in second, and made me go to the audition. And I got it. That was the one I got.
I've got a story about Donald McClellan. At dance school, when I graduated, I got given the Most Improved Award.
Oh.
And Donald McClellan gets up to do the speech and he said, we're giving Joe the award for Most Improved because he entered our school with 3 left feet and he's only leaving with 2. Like, cheers, mate.
He was brilliant. I mean, he used to scare the life out of me at the beginning, but he was so
Great.
knew I had it in me. He was brilliant.
You mentioned working with Matthew Bourne.
Yeah.
What's it like co-choreographing a piece, especially with a fellow choreographer that's perhaps from the other side of the dance world from you? Is that liberating?
I remember at the time I got offered Mary Poppins and Matthew did. I think both of us didn't want to do it with somebody else. I don't know who I thought I was because I was starting off. Matthew Bourne was already fabulous and famous. But we worked together and it was the most brilliant collaboration. We are like chalk and cheese. You know, he, at one point, you know, he gets people to create things and he'll take this from them and reverse it. And for me, at one point, that was not choreography. In my mind, that wasn't choreography.
Yeah.
Until I worked with him. And he's a genius. The man's a genius. Brilliant. And whereas I used to be up all the time, dancing and doing it all, and he said, God, do you never sit down? But it was the most wonderful collaboration. I don't not think Mary Poppins would have been as good if it was just one of us.
Yeah.
And we've just worked together on Old Friends, which was, he was directing that and I choreographed that. So we have a very good relationship.
I suppose it's difficult to ask to give advice on co-choreography because it's so much about whether your personalities mix or not. But I imagine the process of blending your style with someone else's style is an interesting one.
Well, it is really, but like Jolly Holiday is my favourite because that is a real mixture of us both.
Yeah.
Like I do all the vaudeville and I do the tap dancing pans, whereas he does all the statues and all the balletic stuff. But leaving in Stepping Time, and he'll be the first to say he's not a tapper. I remember him saying, perhaps you should swap that round, that angle of do it in a 3. And the numbers he had more involvement with, I would say things and we'd always, I mean, there was never a bad word between us. It was really easy.
Yeah.
I think we both love the same things and appreciate the same things. And it was great collaboration, I have to say. Very lucky to have done that with him.
Do you learn a lot from co-choreography?
Yeah, I think you learn. Yeah, you really do. And the fact is, neither of us had egos where, you know, I knew I wanted to do Stepping Time and I wanted to do I wanted to put signing in for Mark for Supercal. So there was never any questions about anything. It was weird.
Yeah. Because I imagine being a choreographer often is quite a solitary life in the idea that you have your idea, you create it, and then you teach it to everyone else.
Yeah.
But in that moment, you're seeing someone else work and working with them. And
I remember one time, I think Matthew loves to create in a room and to be spontaneous. Well, of course, I will go home and listen to every beat of music for hours and hours, and then I'll come in and do that. So that was, sometimes you'd say, oh, no, I don't think that's spontaneous enough. Which sometimes when you've only got 3 weeks rehearsal, you can't be spontaneous. You need to get your shit together and get on with it. But when you've got longer time, like we had on Poppins, it's nice to create like it is. Like after working with Matthew, I used to lose sleep if I couldn't do 8 counts, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, I'm happy for somebody to create something now, or if somebody can flip or turn, I will add that into my choreography to make them look good and to make my work look good.
Yeah.
You know, there's not at one point when I was starting off, I was so desperate to do everything. And that's not right. That's wrong. But you learn that as you go along.
Yeah. You can only learn by doing. If there are dancers, performers listening to this, they might want to know, what do you look for in an audition? What are you keeping your eye out for?
So I would say from the minute you walk in the room,
Yeah.
I can't speak for everybody, but for me, I clock the room, see who's loud or who's not focused. You know, you can speak to your friends after. I love people who come in a room are focused. It's not, you know, in America, they just come in and do it.
Yeah.
You know, they're sometimes a bit overpowering, but you just go in there and be there for yourself and think of it as look, I'm going to take this, even if I don't get it, I'm going to do the best I can, because you never know who's in that room. I've offered people jobs on something else from an audition they've done for me, because I've remembered them, because they weren't right for that, but I've written their names down. And a lot of casting directors do the same. So as long as you can go in there and come out and say, you know what, I did a good audition, that is so important, because you never know when it's going to come back round or somebody's remembered you from that audition.
As a choreographer, how do you balance working with people that you know, have worked with before, and that you know are going to do a fantastic job for the paying audience, and getting in fresh talent that you haven't worked? How do you strike that balance?
You see, people always thought I use the same lot of people. I don't. I always have a good handful of them. Like the last few jobs, I'd say a quarter have been my old lot. I have, because they're good as well.
Yeah.
But I'm a patron of many colleges, you know, and I make it my business to find out who's coming out of colleges.
Yeah.
We have to. I want to grab all the good ones.
Yeah.
And anybody with any sense will be doing the same. You know, we want to get good people in, but you want those good people to learn from the older pros.
Absolutely.
One, not to piss me off. Pardon me, pardon the language. Not to rub me up the wrong way.
Yeah.
Or have a phone ringing. I'm a bit old school.
Yeah.
And I treat people with so much respect, and I just want that back. And then I will help them throughout their career. I'd be very happy. You know, I am a bit old school. However nice people think I am, I'm not scared of confrontation, but I don't want to have that. No, I just want everybody to have a brilliant time, work with the best people, and get the best out of them.
You've got a real reputation of being one of the nicest people in the industry. You're laughing like, oh, if only you knew. No, but you do. How do you maintain that joyful spirit in an industry that can be quite cutthroat sometimes?
I've lost my shit a couple of times.
We all have.
I have. But it takes a lot. I think the older you get, the wiser you get. And also, I want people to want to work for me. What would kill me is if I heard people say, oh my God, I won't want to work with him. That would really bother me.
Yeah.
I like people to say, oh God, I'd love to work with Stephen Mear. That to me means the world. But I'm not scared of confrontation. I'm not scared if, even however big you are as an actor. I've had clashes with a couple of big actors. And we're friends now, but it's just something you haven't got time for.
Yeah.
We're creating theatre. You know, we're not saving cancer. We have to remember that.
Yeah.
We're there. So better time you have in a studio, better time you have on stage, it's wonderful. But as soon as you get an idiot, and luckily I never have to work with them again once this happened, it's just a shame. It's a bit of hard work when really you should just be having fun.
I always try and remember, because it's normal, we're all human, we can all get a bit big for our boots sometimes. I've definitely done it. And I always try and remember why we're doing what we're doing. The paying audience, there are nurses, members of the armed forces, bin men who might not have a lot of money, and this might be their one show of the year even. And to bring a bit of joy and life and a trip out with the family, it's them that you're doing it for, not my own self-aggrandizement.
Yeah, I always remember, listen, I was very ambitious when I was starting off as a dancer. And I remember being in Evita, and I was still at college, and all these older guys in our dressing room, I was like 10 years between me and them, and I was in Evita with them.
Yeah.
And I remember I'd been in Evita about 2 months, still at college, went to see the opening night of 42nd Street, first preview or dress rehearsal. And I went back into the dressing room and I said, oh, now that's a show I should be in. I'm meant to be in that. Well, they literally ripped me something. They literally tore me apart, because that's the show they love, and quite rightly so.
Yeah.
Now I look back and go, God, how stupid was I? It's
Normal.
young and inexperienced.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Stupid. It's because and then I did get into 42nd Street after, but the fact is I was so upset. I'd upset them because and I suddenly thought, God, you're in the West End. It's your first West End. Shut up, you're still at college.
Yeah.
But you do silly things when you're young.
Yeah, of course
so
you do.
as long as you can notice it and grow with it, that makes you a bit stronger as well.
We all make mistakes, but it's learning from it that counts.
Everybody does.
Yeah. How was it balancing being a professional dancer while still learning and still at college?
I only ever missed the matinee on a Wednesday. So I'd still go in and do my 2 classes in the morning. Then I'd go in for Evita. We hardly did any dance. I'd still go in and do a warm-up before the show. I was that bonkers.
Yeah.
It was good, except I made myself ill. I lost a lot of weight and ended up passing out in Evita. So they told me I had to knock a couple of classes off. But I didn't. I mean, I just pulled myself together. I just was so excited. I thought I'd made it.
Yeah.
I was really stupid to get to college. They never taught you about tax. So I was in the West End. I was going out. I was doing, of course, the tax bill hits you and I'd got nothing because I'd been out thinking I was king of the West End, But another thing you learn. And
was your career a pretty straight line from there, or did you experience some of the downtime that many performers do as well?
I mean, everybody always thinks I get every job. And even as a choreographer, which isn't true. There's loads of jobs I didn't get. You only hear about the ones I did get.
Yeah.
Because I was lucky that I was auditioning for so many that I got quite a few. And also there weren't as many male dancers around, I don't think, when I was at college.
Yeah.
There's loads now, thanks to Strictly and thanks to all these amazing shows. There's so many more dancers now.
Maybe Billy Elliot a bit as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was the only boy that danced in our town at the beginning,
Yeah.
Used to be called Miro Queero. That was nice. I didn't even know I was gay then. So
look at you now. You've spoken before about during COVID, when you couldn't audition new dancers, you would scroll through Instagram and try and find new talent that way. Is that something you still do, or is that a response?
I'm always looking for talent. Always. I love inspiring. I really love inspiring people. Through COVID, it was such a horrible time. And I used to look at those amazing teachers like your Joe Goodwin, your Joe Morris, and all these brilliant people teaching online. And I thought, I could never do that. I have to be in a room with people. So I did a lot of audition techniques, talking to people in big clumps. And, I didn't charge. I just did it because I felt I wanted to keep people going in our industry. And I was blown away by the talent of these kids dancing in their rooms. So I made it my business to scroll through everybody. And I've literally worked with 8 or 9 of them in this profession that I've got them seen or got them agents. I just think it was, I just wanted to help people because it was a horrible time for everybody. You know? I mean, I love working. So not to be working, I was like, you can't be kidding me. And my mum and dad were ill sadly. I lost mum and dad during COVID.
Sorry to hear that.
So it was just, it was a big thing, but I just wanted us all to keep going. And I remember doing a speech at the beginning thinking, well, we'll be back in a couple of weeks. I remember doing a big speech. So, well, now's your time to go on the internet looking for all the famous choreographers, directors and speeches you think you couldn't do.
Yeah.
Get them under your belt now, or songs you can try and get it. Just do it now. And I didn't think it was going to go on that long for a start,
Yes.
But I just tried to do my best I love inspiring people still. I love people to love this industry because it is brilliant if you have a good time.
And it's easier now than it's ever been to put yourself out there, I think.
Yeah.
Before you might have to get a camera with a reel and teach a bunch of people to dance. Now you've got your phone and you can immediately start creating things that
I mean, that is brilliant. I mean, my advice is when you're putting things on Instagram and everything, just be careful what you're wearing sometimes because you're going to look back and go one day and go, oh my God. That would be my advice. But there are brilliant things with people putting dance things on. But if you are going to do that or put singing tape on, get one of your friends, don't just judge yourself, who will be honest with you and say, you're slightly flat there, or your foot's settled there. You don't want that up there. You need somebody to do that. That's the only advice I would give. But I've seen some amazing people on Instagram and that I love watching, and I've actually got agents for and got people to see them in other shows that I'm not involved in. I love doing that.
You talked before about the differences between the American rehearsal room on Broadway and the British rehearsal room in the West End. What are the main differences between working in the West End and working on Broadway?
I mean, God, and also it's like a different language sometimes. But I do find that my assistants in America, I've got brilliant assistants, but I was saying to them, it's the auditions that's knocked me for six.
Yeah.
I think they come in so strong. Bless them, they only get to sing so many bars of their song. And but they said, my assistants normally say, well, you fit into Texas twice. So can you imagine how many people we have to see in New York?
Yeah.
I mean, when you go to New York, they think it's ought to be on a Broadway show. That's all they want. It's amazing. And so they're in your face a bit more. If you don't make a mark, you just vanish in America.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really tough. Whereas, in England, we're like, oh, they're a bit in your face. It took me a while. Don't forget me, you see as many crap ones as you see good ones.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of them, a lot more. So I understand them now that they have to make their marks. I remember when we were doing Poppins, I think Richard Eyre asked them to sing all their song, a few of them sing their full song. And a couple of them went totally wrong because they'd not sang it for so long. They'd only sang so many bars. So yeah, it's a lot harder out there, I have to say. I think it's hard here, but look how small we are.
Yeah.
It's like diversity. I'm going to go on this. Like diversity, people say, we should have diversity in every show. Absolutely, we should have diversity. And I'm all for it. And so is every single person casting I know. We only get 5% go into our colleges. And look how tiny we are to America. So we have to be realistic. It's not as easy as everybody thinks just to have loads of diversity. A lot of Americans here now that are diverse, who are amazing. We have amazing diverse people. We just don't have enough.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're not very realistic. In America, I did Dreamgirls Ragtime, and we could have cast it 3 times over in a week.
Wow.
Rehearsed it, auditioning in New York. So it's a different ball game.
Yeah.
But, I just think people need to be realistic about it. And they have to realise that, of course, we all want diversity. It's brilliant if you can, but it's not easy in England. It's a lot harder.
We have a very different racial demographic.
Yeah. And a lot of them, my favourite diverse people I've worked with are in Bridgerton. So, so they kind of want to leave musical theatre and do TV, which I totally understand. But, I wish we could get more diversity into colleges. I really do.
That's interesting. So are people from different backgrounds just not going into performing arts colleges?
I mean, I'm involved in so many colleges. It literally is 5% if you're looking. And or a lot of them want to go into commercial.
Yeah.
Well, which is understandable. But I just wish we could get more diversity. I mean, it might be because at one point it was about exams and doing all the theory work scares people off sometimes. Yeah. God knows I would never have got through if that was the case.
I think 12% of Britain is black or Asian.
Yeah.
So to say that 5% from people from different backgrounds are going into performing arts colleges, you're right. That's
it is. It's
a lot less.
But it is a lot less compared to America.
Yeah.
You're bowled over by the amazing talent. We do have amazing, diverse talent. We just don't have enough. And I wish we could get more into colleges. And I don't know how we do it.
Do you think the West End compares well to Broadway in terms of quality and standard?
Do you know what? If America was the same size as England, absolutely, we compare. We have the most brilliant actors. We have fabulous all-rounders. But we just don't have as many as America.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's very simple, really, when people looked at it properly.
And a lot of the big American stars, they come over to the West End and...
Yeah, and now, that's the thing. Americans are always saying, God, we'd love to work in the West End. I said, yeah, but you wouldn't want that money. I'll tell you for now. Because they're on... When you say what the basic is here, and you say that to an American, they absolutely do not believe you. They went, no way. Honest. I remember doing Sunset in America. I think they have 3 levels for choreographers and the creatives. And I think Andrew wanted his sound person there. So they said we were all going to have to drop a level. And that level we were dropping to was still 3 times more than I got paid in the West End.
Wow.
So,
Is that because they've got a stronger union than us?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and also the cost of living out there is a lot more.
It is.
And their tickets are a lot bigger. So I do kind of understand.
Yeah.
But, they really shocked that a lot of our performers teach and do other jobs in the day.
I do think we undervalue our performers a little bit. We can definitely be paying them more for all the skill, time, craft, dedication, effort they put in throughout their lives. And we as an industry bring in billions. So even if performing doesn't strike you on an emotional level, well, think of it on an economic level. We bring in tons of money.
Yeah, but also our tickets are nowhere near as
they're not
pricey as America. I was paying like 200 something for a ticket. No, I would never do that in England.
No.
It was, while I was out there, I thought I must see shows and, but it's quite, it's that I find a bit ridiculous in America. But then again, they get paid more. So
it balances out.
Yeah.
Stephen, if you had one bit of advice for a dancer or a performer of any kind in 2025 trying to make their dreams come true in this industry, what would you say to them?
I would say it's a very small industry. Even working in America, you still realize it's smaller than you think. Go in there, keep your nose clean, go and do the best you can, be the most ultimate professional. We all have bad days, just don't take it to work.
Yeah.
Just get the best reputation you can and get people to want to work with you. And there's nothing, I don't care however good you are, but if you're a pain in the ass, I would rather give it to Eric, who's going to take a couple of weeks longer.
Yeah.
To get it, but I know they will.
Or Joe will take 4 years longer.
but you can tell people who are passionate and loving being there, but you just know they're probably not as good as somebody who's a bit of a pain, who's brilliant.
Yeah.
I will go for the other one.
Yeah.
So I know we've got 4 weeks to get that out of you any day of the week. So just make sure you have a nice reputation. It's good. You can't please everybody, admittedly, but just in this industry, it's a brilliant industry. Just try and just enjoy it and give out the best positive side of you can. Turn
up early, be nice to people, work hard.
Yeah, it's so easy.
Yeah.
Because you'll look back and go, oh, shit, why didn't I do that? It's like colleges. You go, oh, God, I wish I'd have done those classes. Don't do that. Just be a sponge, soak in everything.
Yeah.
Even when you're in the business, be a sponge if you love doing it.
Stephen, we are coming towards the end of today's pod. So I just want to say thank you so much for being with us.
My pleasure.
It's been so brilliant. If I may, I'm going to end on one final question. If you could choreograph for any performer, alive or dead, past or present, who would you like to choreograph for?
I've got a few. I love Anne Miller. I'm obsessed with her. But Gene Kelly was...
Yeah.
God, wouldn't you just love to... I got to choreograph on Donna McKenzie when I was starting off. And we're friends still.
Yeah.
And that was a bit mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Because she's a legend. So I'm, all those old stars.
Anne Miller, Don McKenzie, Gene Kelly.
Yeah.
A great list. Stephen Mear, thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for joining us today. Thank you. Thanks so much for listening. We really appreciate it. You don't have to, but if you fancied it, here's a follow. Lots of love, and we'll see you on the next one.